Thank you very much, Connor. Yes, hello from Miami. Formula One returns to racing after its unscheduled April break. And we're not messing around. It's a sprint weekend, and in just a few moments' time, the lights will be going out for the second sprint of the year. It's round 4 of the Formula One World Championship. Welcome into the commentary box. My name is Harry Benjamin. We're positioned at pit entry. The sun is shining, temperatures high, and anticipation building. Alongside me is the 1996 Formula One World Champion, 30 years on from that achievement, Damon Hill. It's good to have Formula One back, isn't it?
Yeah, people keep saying 30 years.
I know.
It feels very, very old. Anyway, I'm still fresh as a daisy, Harry, and I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Also with us is the BBC F1 correspondent, Andrew Benson. Actually, Andrew, some sad news to touch on before today's action with the passing of former Formula One driver Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, Zanardi was a sporting icon in motorsport and in disability sport. He was an example of the unquenchable human spirit. He lost his legs in an IndyCar accident in 2001, having been two-time champion there. Came back and won the Olympics, several gold medals in the Olympics in the hand cycle competition. He suffered serious head injuries 6 years ago in a road accident while he was competing, actually, and sadly died yesterday. Actually, 32 years to the day since the death of Ayrton Senna. And like Senna, he inspired millions around the world.
A huge inspiration indeed, and a huge loss, not only to motorsport, but the whole sporting world. Damon, you and Alex would have crossed over during your time racing in Formula One. What are your memories of the man, your interactions?
He first came to our attention when he raced for a team called Il Barone Rampante, the Rampant Baron, in Formula 3000, and that's where we first noticed this guy. And he went on, as Andrew was saying, to have a very successful career in all kinds of racing formula and in America particularly, but sadly lost his legs. But that didn't stop him. He was unbelievable. I mean, and he had such an incredible spirit. He's such an enthusiastic, positive individual, and of course he did inspire millions of people by showing what can be done, even if you've had a catastrophic injury like that. And he's a very, very sad loss. A very, very sad day when he had his accident coming back. You know, it was very tragic. It's like he didn't have any good luck, you know, but he's left his mark, and people remember him very, very positively.
Absolutely, and Formula One remembering Alex Zanardi with a minute's silence just a few moments ago. Right, let's get back to the on-track action. We are just moments away from the sprint race here in Miami to kickstart the racing action. The second sprint of the season, the first in China, as they now make their way down to turn 1 in the formation lap. Let's take you through the field then from back to front. We'll actually have one car starting from the pit lane, Arvid Lindblad, the two Aston Martins, the slowest runners of the weekend so far. Lance Stroll, 21st, behind teammate Fernando Alonso. Then it's the Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas from 19th. Alex Albon in the Williams will go from 18th, behind Sergio Perez in a good effort for the Cadillac driver. Starts 17th, behind Esteban Ocon's Haas in 16th. Liam Lawson moves up into 15th. Then from 14th will be Carlos Sainz. Ollie Behrman's Haas from 13th. We suspect there will be a gap when Nico Hülkenberg's Audi should be in 12th, having had his engine conk out on the way to the grid just a few moments ago. His teammate Gabby Bortoleto starts on the fringes of the top 10 into 11th. Into the top 10, Pierre Gasly's Alpine is 10th, behind Isaac Hadjar's Red Bull. Good effort from the Argentine Alpine driver Franco Colapinto starts 8th. Then it will be Lewis Hamilton, disappointed with 7th, behind an equally disappointed George Russell, sitting 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. He'll head off the line from 6th, behind Max Verstappen, happy with 5th place, improvement for the Red Bull. Charles Leclerc from 4th in the Ferrari. Into the top 3 now, and it's Oscar Piastri's McLaren. Kimi Antonelli will start on the front row, leading the championship, heading off the line from 2nd. But in an improved McLaren, the reigning champion Lando Norris starts on pole for the sprint. Moments away then, anticipation building. Before we get things properly going, let's head to our eyes and ears on the ground and say good afternoon to Jenny Gao.
Good afternoon. Blazing sunshine here. A cloud's just got in front of it actually and given us some respite, but the temperatures down here are crazy hot, and I dread to think what it's like inside that cockpit. Yes, I'd still like to do it, but it's probably pretty uncomfortable today.
Certainly is. Just a reminder, sprint race is shorter than the usual Grand Prix distance. No mandatory pit stops. 19 laps of racing expected. Less points handed out as well. 8 points for the win, all the way down to 1 point for 8th place. So only the top 8 scoring points in this one. And Damon, as Lando Norris heads onto the start grid and lines up in his spot. Well, Mercedes with a dominant form in the first 3 races. Have things changed? McLaren seem to have found something.
Yeah, you'd have to say, looking at this grid, I mean, apart from Kimi in the Mercedes, you know, you'd have to say this is a bit of a surprise to see McLaren up there. We've got 2 McLaren's in the top 3, and I expected Ferrari to be maybe a little bit stronger, but Charles in 4th is good, but Max down in, you know, the Red Bull still not showing true pace, but the big thing is how they get off the line. We've seen some dreadful starts, haven't we, in the first few races we've had of this season, especially from Kimi.
One person with the 2 people with good starts consistently are the Ferrari drivers. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton will be watching out for the scarlet red Ferraris making their way down to turn 1, a right-hander. It's a 176 metre run from pole down to turn 1 over this 5.4 kilometre circuit which circles the Miami Dolphins NFL stadium. Then we got 21 cars on the grid, 1 from the pit lane as the start-up procedure fires up. It's Lando Norris on pole, Antonelli alongside, and the sprint is on, and it's an even start it's not, it's a poor start from Kimi Antonelli, a mega start from the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Piastri manages to slot up into 2nd, Leclerc into 3rd, Antonelli losing positions, Russell gaining positions as going toe-to-toe is the Red Bull of Max Verstappen with Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari further back, touching wheels as they arc their way through the first left-right sweepers, but all fairly clean as they jostle 4 positions in the opening stages of this sprint race in Miami.
Yeah, that was a pretty poor start from Kimi Antonelli. Of course, he was swamped there, and McLaren off to a good start. First 2 drivers there, but of course some argy-bargy going on with Lewis and Max as well. But I didn't see any bits flying off cars, so that was good.
5th poor start in a row for Kimi Antonelli in 5 races this year. However, crucially, he's kept ahead of his teammate George Russell with the championship picture in mind.
Lando Norris leads from his teammate Oscar Piastri. Then comes the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Chasing them down is the 2 Mercedes drivers. Kimi Antonelli just about holding on ahead of his teammate George Russell, who's made improvements. Max Verstappen down to 6th. Lewis Hamilton holding steady in 7th. Gasly up to 8th ahead of his teammate Franco Colapinto. Good start for the sole Audi in the field. Gabriel Bortoleto was fighting with the other Red Bull of Isaac Hadjar, who's been demoted, down to 11th. Arvid Lindblad doesn't look like he's made it out onto the track for this one. Nico Hülkenberg never started the race, so we're already down to 20 cars in the field as further back in the pack, round the final 2 corners that swing left, then swing right again. The Williams of Carlos Sainz, who was not happy after sprint qualifying, finding himself behind the Cadillac of Sergio Perez, who's been on fire so far. New improvements for the brand new team in Formula 1. Back up front though, and we have a fight brewing over 3rd place as the 2 McLarens escape up the road. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari with another brilliant start for the Monegasque. Now has a recovering Kimi Antonelli all over the back of him.
Yeah, and it's fairly typical of what we've seen in the first few races of the season, where I thought I saw Kimi Antonelli get overtaken by George Russell, but he must have got him back somewhere. And this is the ebb and flow, the backwards and forwards with the deployment of their battery power as Kimi Antonelli takes a look at Charles Leclerc and actually runs wide, and George is all over the back of him now.
That's going to really allow Russell to close up, but this is where it gets tight. The walls get closer as they rise up and over the chicane.
He is so bad on Tokyo. He moves at the braking, it's unbelievable. We're going to crash.
That's Charles Leclerc saying Kimi Antonelli so bad at wheel-to-wheel racing, moving whilst under braking, which you are not allowed to do in Formula 1. Leclerc has managed a bit of respite as Antonelli now has George Russell looking down his inside, coming into turn 17. While they're fighting, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are closing in behind. The closest fight at the front right now, over 4th place. Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton and Verstappen as going wheel-to-wheel further back in the pack. Lovely move from the Cadillac of Sergio Perez, who I think is now fallen behind Carlos Sainz and is trying to fend off Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls and catch back up to Carlos Sainz as the other Williams of Alex Albon is fighting with the Racing Bulls of Liam Lawson. No points up for grabs for these runners further back, but lovely fighting none the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see this ebbing and flowing that we don't normally see. Normally what happens after first few laps is that people settle down, but what you're seeing is people getting overtaken and then re-overtaken, repass, and the pressure is constantly on for the early part of these races. And with a sprint, you know, this could go on for quite some time. We're getting entertained, I think, pretty well.
Well, lap 3 of 19 coming into this new era of Formula One. We're in Miami for the second sprint of the season. We tweaked the regulations slightly with huge scrutiny over the energy management that drivers are having to do throughout the race. Lap 3 of 19, it's Norris who started on pole and leads his teammate Oscar Piastri by 1.3 seconds. Charles Leclerc holding on to third. Then comes Antonelli, Russell the top 5, Hamilton is 6th, Verstappen and Gasly are your top 8. They are the point scorers, with Colapinto and Bortoleto rounding out the top 10. Tough start for Isaac Hadjar in the second Red Bull. He's down to 11th ahead of the two Haas cars, Behrman and Ocon. Sainz still ahead of Perez down in 15th. Lawson 16th. Albon is 17th. Albon's actually just managed to get Liam Lawson up into 16th. Then Bottas down in 18th with the two Aston Martins adrift at the end of the field. Alonso ahead of Stroll. Nico Hulkenberg, his Audi engine blowing up on the way to the grid. Couldn't even start this race. Neither could Arvid Lindblad, the British rookie in the Racing Bulls, who were already confined to starting from the pit lane, didn't make it out. So just 20 cars left in this one.
Yeah, so it's pretty much exciting all the way down through the field. They are starting to settle down a little bit. There's a bit of a spread and a little bit of a settlement taking place. We've got Norris out in the lead with 1.5 second lead over Oscar. But you know, through the field, we're getting cars now stringing out and having to think a little bit more tactically.
Certainly, with just hearing news on Arvid Lindblad out due to a technical issue down in Racing Bulls. So that's the reason why we're not seeing him out on track. Okay, out in front then, it is a 1.4 second gap between Norris and Piastri. Charles Leclerc in third, with Kimi Antonelli now closing back up. This now fight, as you've been saying, Damon, ebbing and flowing with different energy management techniques as well, and strengths and weaknesses for all of these teams. Huge upgrades for the majority of teams for this weekend, and actually for Ferrari and Red Bull, both running this 360-degree full 60 spinning rear wing. Red Bull's much stronger, much more aggressive than Ferrari, so great to see the differences that might be bringing when it comes to straight line speed for the Red Bull versus the Ferrari. Right now though, the Ferraris are ahead of the Red Bulls. Verstappen down in 7th. Hadjar has just managed to get back ahead of Bortoleto and up inside the top 10. We're getting another look at the start, Damon, and it was another poor start for Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, they've got this new rule whereby they say they allow the driver, if he's had a really bad start off the line, to deploy a little bit of battery power just to stop the car from bogging down completely. But I don't know quite what the problem was there, but he just didn't seem to go anywhere. Maybe he hadn't got the turbo up to enough boost to get the car off the line. As we're watching the replay with 3 cars going abreast, and this is we can watch now from above how Max pushes Lewis off the track coming out of turn 3.
They were getting so close. Hamilton right on the outside line coming into turn 1, running 3 wide with one of the Alpines on the inside. But great wheel-to-wheel racing between two champions of this sport, and I think there was a slight touch. Indeed, the Alpine made contact as well with the Red Bull on the outside. Then Verstappen on his inside had Lewis Hamilton. They all came out unscathed, and it was a good start from the Ferrari driver. George Russell in the other Mercedes, much better start than his teammate Kimi Antonelli. Almost got around the outside of him, but couldn't make it work. Antonelli holding on to that position, and Hamilton then behind the two Mercedes, rather barged out of the way when we ride on board by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull.
How there weren't bits flying off cars there, I have no idea.
Yeah, we didn't see how Hamilton got back past Verstappen as well, because he's ahead at the moment in that train behind Leclerc.
Indeed, Hamilton 6th, Verstappen 7th at the moment, but they are all rather being held up behind the battle over third, which is Leclerc, Antonelli and Russell. Leclerc holding on to it for now, with Norris and Piastri up the road. Huge upgrade planned for this weekend for the McLaren drivers, and it's paying dividends. couple of years ago, 2024. Lando Norris taking his maiden Grand Prix victory here in Miami. Last year, Oscar Piastri taking victory. It's a happy hunting ground for the McLaren drivers, and right now they have shown their hand and perhaps have improved the most in this little unscheduled break that we have had due to the cancellations of rounds in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia over the course of April. So we've lost 2 rounds from the calendar. We rock up in Miami for round 4.
I can't be great. Excellent stepping up and down.
Thank you.
Max Verstappen reporting issues with his braking. The rear axle jumping up and down, lacking the stability he needs under braking. He's still under the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton as we head down the long back straight, 1.2 kilometres in length, down towards turn 17. You slam on the brakes, you turn it into the left-hander of the hairpin, and then you sweep left and you sweep right 2 more times, and that completes a lap at the Miami International Autodrome. Lap 7 of 19. Norris leads by 2 seconds to Piastri. We're down to 20 cars. Arvid Lindblad out of this one, didn't even start it due to a technical issue, and Nico Hulkenberg with suspected engine issues on the way to the grid. Jenny Gow, do we know more about Nico Hulkenberg?
Well, his car did go boom, smoke poured out of the rear end. The team is saying an operational problem that they're now looking into. No issues expected to get him out for qualifying. So that's good news, at least. Not in the sprint race, but should get out for qualifying for the actual Grand Prix tomorrow.
Yes, a reminder on a sprint weekend, slightly rejigged format right now. You're listening to the sprint race. Then in a few hours' time, we'll have qualifying as usual for the Grand Prix on Sunday. You can hear qualifying on 5 Sports Extra with the green light coming on at the end of the pit lane at 9 o'clock this evening. Sunday's race in Miami will be on 5 Live, build up from 8 o'clock in the evening ahead of lights out from 9 o'clock. Oh, skidding over the chicane as we head up and over at turns 14 and 15. Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes pushing hard, almost rally style, as he's really trying to hold on to 4th. He's losing touch a little bit with Charles Leclerc and keeping Russell, Hamilton and Verstappen right behind him.
Yeah, and actually we're watching as we speak now. We got George is having a move, and it looks like he's got past Kimi there. And I was just about to say Kimi was definitely feeling the pressure as he was causing a little bit of a backlog, and Lewis Hamilton was closing up on the back of George Russell, but George has made it through. But can he get him back? This is the interesting thing about modern Formula 1 this 2026 season, is that once you get past, it doesn't mean it's all done and dusted.
One thing we've really enjoyed is actually wheel-to-wheel racing between teammates, because usually they run similar deployment patterns. But are we seeing a slight difference here? We know George Russell hasn't been completely happy with his car so far this weekend. Russell has managed to stay in front of Kimi Antonelli after diving down the inside at turn 17. But then Antonelli came back at him on the start-finish straight, but Russell held on. Russell up into 4th, Antonelli 5th, Hamilton and Verstappen right behind.
What's interesting here is that the quickest race pace yesterday was Charles Leclerc. Russell was struggling with his car, and Antonelli was faster than him both on race pace and qualifying pace on Friday.
Oh, as we're going wheel-to-wheel once again between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and they both run deep, having to take all 4 wheels off the road, and Verstappen comes out on top. Will he be allowed to keep the place on that front? We'll want another look at it, but as we head up and over the chicane at turns 14 and 15 and swing left back down the back straight in Miami, it's Verstappen up into 6th, Hamilton down to 7th. Let's hear from him.
Max overtook me going off track.
Max overtook me going off the track. That's the word from Lewis Hamilton as he has a little look at going through on Max Verstappen down into turn 17. Does Verstappen let him through? He's told to give the place back, but they're rather making a meal of it as we come through the final 2 corners. Hamilton is now back in front, Antonelli back in front of Russell, 4th for the young Italian who comes into this round leading the championship, and we're about to see how it all started with Kimi Antonelli just ahead, getting ahead of George Russell, and as he did that, Max Verstappen diving down the inside of Lewis Hamilton, forcing both off the track coming into turn 11.
You'd have to say it was a good pass attempt by Max. I mean, he actually got down the inside, and it was almost as if everyone else was going too slowly and they were concertinaing up, and almost as if Lewis had to kind of back out of it, and Max just went for the gap. And famously in his own inimitable style goes very deep and uses all the road, but he's given the place back to Lewis, so Lewis is now in front of him. So we might see a repeat of that overtake maybe in less than a lap's time.
As we head through turns 11 and 12 again, scene of the crime from 1 lap ago. Verstappen not as close this time. Both the Ferrari and the Red Bull in a straight line, activating their active aero on the front wing and the rear wing. The flaps open, and on both rear wings of the Ferrari and the Red Bull, aggressive designs, flipping completely round. But Red Bull deploying that for this weekend as a first. Slightly more aggressive. Is it going to give them a little bit more of a straight line advantage down towards turn 17 to the inside for Verstappen? Later on the brakes, he gets back through. Can Hamilton find more deployment? Can he tuck back underneath? Can he get a bit of the toe as we now head back down the start-finish straight? And Hamilton can't do anything about it yet. Into turn 1, the right-hander, and Verstappen holds on back up into 6th. Hamilton down to 7th.
It's almost a case there of Red Bull beating the battle of the inverted rear wing teams, as he seemed to have a better toe on the Ferrari going down into the same place that he overtook Lewis on the previous lap, but this time he makes it stick. And there's no doubt about it, Lewis is now going to have to follow the gearbox of Max, and if he can get back at him, have another go. But it looks to me like Max has got a bit of pace now.
Lap 10 of 19 of the Miami sprints here at the Miami International Autodrome. 10 out of 19 laps completed around this 5.4 kilometer circuit, which circles the Miami Dolphins NFL Stadium. It's Lando Norris, who from pole has led every single lap of this race so far and is 2.5 seconds clear of Oscar Piastri, his teammate. Then further adrift comes Charles Leclerc, cementing 3rd for the Ferrari driver. Antonelli still with George Russell, his teammate, behind. 4th and 5th for the 2 Mercedes drivers. Verstappen is 6th, Hamilton in 7th, who just looked like he was struggling for grip a few moments ago, coming through the chicane at 14 and 15. Hamilton 7th ahead of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, who holds 8th. And the final points-paying position for the moment, his teammate Colapinto is behind, with Isaac Hadjar rounding out the top 10. Then it's Bortoletto in 11th, Behrman, Ocon, Sainz and Albon the top 15. Seeing a bit of carbon fibre flying off from potentially Carlos Sainz's Williams. A little replay, or was it the Haas actually, of Oliver Behrman. That's the sound you're hearing right down. And it either fell off the Haas or he was avoiding it. He was avoiding it. It was already on the track, and unfortunately he didn't quite avoid it enough, and he's obliterated that bit of carbon fibre.
In blue, it does look like it's from the Williams, isn't it? So, but the noise you heard was the slow-mo, not the engine.
No, engine all fine on that front.
No, it was Ollie Behrman, but they were just trying to show us what had happened. It was a piece had clearly come adrift, and then another car had run over it.
So Behrman 12th, Ocon 13th, Sainz and Albon the top 15, Lawson 16th ahead of Perez. Then comes Stroll and Fernando Alonso actually started this race on the soft tyre, so a continued test session for Aston Martin Honda, who are the slowest and struggling the most in this 2026 Formula One season. Valtteri Bottas actually not happy so far this weekend either. He's 20th and last of the runners in the Cadillac. Hülkenberg and Lindblad are out of this one. Hamilton still keeping within a second of Verstappen for 6th, and actually Charles Leclerc has been making huge gains on Oscar Piastri over the course of the last couple of laps. He's within a second of the Australian in the McLaren, currently sitting in 2nd. So Charles Leclerc is coming alive in the closing stages of this sprint race. 2nd place could be on the cards here for the Monegasque.
Yeah, definitely a bit of pace there, and also as we were watching, you're saying that Kimi Antonelli set the fastest first sector as well. So there is a little bit of action happening here as they get closer to the end of this race. We see Albon having a look at Carlos Sainz. So we've got two teams with 2 drivers on the same bit of track. We've got the Haas's together and the Williamses, and so there's all to play for, and the pride stakes for these drivers.
Certainly is. It's 2 by 2. The 2 Haas's 12th and 13th, and the 2 Williamses 14th and 15th. Not where either team wants to be racing right now. And Carlos Sainz has the edge over Alex Albon. But Albon's been looking racy. Did actually out-qualify Carlos Sainz for the sprint race. But the FIA, the sports governing body, missed a track limits violation for Alex Albon in sprint qualifying yesterday, and so demoted him after the session took place. So he ended up starting this sprint down in 18th position. Meanwhile, back up front, Norris leads by 3 seconds. Piastri is in 2nd. Charles Leclerc, who was about 8 tenths back from Piastri is now hovering around the second mark. This is the sound of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, who currently sits third in the Drivers' Championship coming into this weekend, set to pick up 6 points if he can hold on to third. Just dips under the 1 second mark as we cross the line for lap 13 of 19. Is this the McLaren ahead just managing to the end of the race, or is the medium tyre actually working quite well in the later stages for Charles Leclerc and his Ferrari? He's dropped Kimi Antonelli a few seconds back, but Antonelli still putting in the lap times with Russell 2 seconds further back in fifth, and that gap between Verstappen and Hamilton has now stabilised. So the top 7, the biggest fight right now is over potentially second and third, but Leclerc has just dropped back a little further in the last few corners.
Yeah, Kimi Antonelli is ahead of George Russell now, and I didn't see that happen. Did you see that happen?
Yeah, so it was when Max Verstappen went down the inside of Lewis Hamilton and forced him wide. At the exact same moment, George Russell got overtaken by Kimi Antonelli.
I got distracted by Max overtaking Lewis.
Easily done, Damon.
But here we are as we watch the guys coming in. They've done 12 laps now, so you have to say Lando is looking very comfortable out in front, and he's stretching away. And the view you get now from Oscar's car looking up ahead at his teammate up the road, you start to get that sinking feeling that the guy is just able to inch away from you, and there's a sort of certain degree of resignation as you see that happening. You have to think really hard, how can I close that gap, as he now is also under pressure from Charles Leclerc behind him.
Front wing change looks like inevitable for one of the Williams cars. Perhaps that bit of debris that Ollie Behrman ran over was from one of the Williams, either Sainz or Albon. They're out in the pit lane with a front wing ready. They're down in 14th and 15th, and Albon is all over the back of Sainz, who is all over the back of Ollie Behrman. Ocon has been able to get through on Behrman in the last few moments and up into 12th, but no points on offer for those guys. They treat it more as a testing session at this stage of the game, as we'll get ready for Grand Prix qualifying in a few hours' time. But mightily impressive so far, it has to be said, for Lando Norris, the reigning world champion, and McLaren, using the 5-week break, unscheduled, no racing in April. The month of May appears and we're back to racing action, and McLaren have brought a huge upgrade and jumped up the order. Let's head down on the ground to Jenny Gow.
Yes, Alex Albon and Williams has come into the pits. They're just changing that front wing for him. It takes about 10 seconds to change a front wing. So let's see how he goes. But they are putting it on now, attaching it. It's a simple screw in, but actually it's quite complicated. They're making a bit of a hash of it as well. But he will go back out in the Williams, but drop down to the end of the field.
It would be remiss of me to say that I haven't actually. I did try that job a few weeks ago at Haas, and changing a front wing.
In a race?
Very tricky. Not in a race, no. But tricky in non-race conditions. I would say near on impossible in race conditions.
Yeah, I think it's the pressure those guys work under is incredible, and they do an amazing job. But of course, Alex is now, he's been struck yet again by a little bad luck. He's not been getting much luck recently, has he? But they need more pace as well. Williams know that they've got time to find. They've been working really hard over the break to try and reduce the weight disadvantages they've been carrying, and they've made a little bit of progress on that. But this afternoon they got a chance to have another go at qualifying for the main event on Sunday. But right now we're watching a battle that we're wondering now whether this is a change of order, because McLaren looking very, very comfortable and outpacing Mercedes, and we thought Mercedes had so much in hand at the start of this season. It looks almost like. And also Kimi Antonelli is, you have to say, George, if he wants to become world champion now, he's going to have to do something about Kimi.
Certainly does. Antonelli currently in fourth, but Charles Leclerc is not giving up on a taste of second here, back under a second away from Oscar Piastri. Norris up the road by almost 3.5 seconds. The sound you were hearing there a few moments ago was the Red Bull of Isaac Hadjar, who was a second off Max Verstappen in qualifying yesterday for the sprint. He's currently set to pick up no points. He's in 10th, and he's stuck behind the Alpine of Franco Colapinto and can't find a way through right now. Or is that about to change? Colapinto takes a much tighter line coming into the left-hander of turn 11. It then tightens up through the right-hand squeeze. Colapinto holds his line as we head up and over at the chicane at 14 and 15. A quick left, a quick right, a bump at the top of the curve, and then a 90-degree left-hander that swings you back round on yourself and embark down the 1.2 kilometre back straight towards the heavy braking zone of the hairpin of turn 17. Right now, Colapinto's still ahead of Hadjar, but he'll have a good chance down into turn 17. We're now seeing, though, Charles Leclerc, who is the closest he has ever been, with 4 laps to go in this sprint, to second place man Oscar Piastri, who could well be struggling here. Last lap around for Oscar Piastri, a 1:32.5. Charles Leclerc, a 1:32.1, and is closing at a rapid rate of knots.
Yeah, he saw him doing something with his hand. There was an onboard footage of him, and he was crossing his hand over and pressing a button on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. That's Charles Leclerc, as he closes in on Oscar. But they've got a lot to do. They've got so many blooming buttons and knobs and various kind of settings they can play with. I mean, to have to cross over your hands while you're driving, and you can't use your left hand to do it, then there's quite a lot to cope with there as a driver.
Back round, through the left-hander, down the back straight we go. Lando Norris, all the way, halfway down the back straight already, 3.3 seconds ahead of Oscar Piastri, who is just able to get more time out of his car than the Ferrari is on the exits onto the back straight. But then Charles Leclerc closes up into the braking zone, but he's just tipped back over the 1 second gap, having been within half a second just a few moments ago. Lap 17 of 19. Piastri still holds second, Leclerc in third. McLaren able to deploy a lot more energy, a lot more of that battery power through turn 3 than their nearest rivals.
Yeah, this is the art now, is how you use the battery and what parts of the circuits the battery deployment is made. You've got more than one choices to do that, and then the art is to understand that the energy is deployed in the right place in the right way on a lap. So it's incredibly complicated. I have to be honest, we're watching an onboard of a very exciting moment there, but Isaac Hadjar gets past Colapinto.
What a move from Hadjar on absolute rails, getting through on Franco Colapinto, who was squeezing Hadjar all the way to the wall, coming through the sweepers of turn 4, 5 and 6. It sweeps left, then right, then left again. Hadjar taking the outside line, coming through the left-hander of turn 6 and able to keep ahead of Colapinto, who's still right with him. But as we head into the left-hander of turn 11, Hadjar running a little deep. That compromises his line through the next right-hander. Colapinto closes back up. It's the blue, yellow and red Red Bull versus the blue, yellow and pink Alpine as we head back onto the back straight. Can Colapinto find more deployment? He's full throttle, he's emptying his battery almost to zero, keeps a little bit left in the tank. He's deployed his energy, but he's not closing. What can Isaac Hadjar do? Does he need to defend? No, he doesn't. By the time you get into the braking zone, Hadjar is able to cement P9. Colapinto down to 10th, but no points up on offer for those. Only the top 8 in a sprint get rewarded.
I hope the producer shows us the whole overtake manoeuvre, because they suddenly jumped to the onboard of Isaac Hadjar and made us jump, because we didn't realise what was happening, but it looked like it was quite dramatic. A move by Isaac and almost having to avoid Colapinto, so hopefully we'll get a replay of that. But he needed to do that, and he's managed to pull it off. So good move by Isaac.
So he is all running deep down at turn 11. Charles Leclerc can't get the car stopped, runs all the way into the runoff area, gets it back on track, gathers it all up, but in his hunt for Oscar Piastri, loses ground. Did he run out of grip? Was it a mistake from Charles Leclerc? He's recovered quickly, but uncharacteristic error from Leclerc.
That's not a braking point, is it? It was a bit of a strange place to suddenly run deep, but he's now on the back straight. He's got his upside down rear wing fully upside down, and hopefully getting a bit closer again to Oscar. I say hopefully.
Well, to be fair, he can't turn it in.
That's a different line again, isn't it?
A much deeper line.
Yeah.
Almost looks like he's struggling with grip through the corner and out of the corner. He's lost a huge chunk of time. He's now 1.5 seconds, nearly 2 seconds back on Oscar Piastri as we start the final lap.
He's just going offline. Maybe he's got something on his, maybe got some graining or something like that with his front tyres. But anyway, he's definitely, we're talking about Charles Leclerc, he's trying to attack Oscar Piastri and has managed to lose an awful lot of time from being very close to overtaking him. And all we can see is that he's going out of corners, almost going straight on and not managing to make the corner. So it's like he's turning the wheel and he's not getting the front to work.
Yeah, and I think that fight for second has cooled with Charles Leclerc falling over 2 seconds behind now Oscar Piastri. Antonelli and Russell 4th and 5th. Verstappen a second behind Russell and closing Verstappen, who started in 5th, down to 6th, and Hamilton further adrift in 7th. Gasly at the moment looking to take the final point on rails. Lando Norris, full right hand down, coming through the chicane, gathers it all up. He's pushing all the way to the end here, and he's halfway down the back straight with just 3 more corners to go for Lando Norris, who has not put a foot wrong in this sprint. McLaren returning from the April break with a hugely upgraded car, and with 2 more corners to go, he sweeps left, he sweeps right, the sun shines down on Lando Norris, who takes the Miami sprint. Norris wins the sprint here in Miami, 3.7 seconds clear of his teammate Oscar Piastri. McLaren have upset the Apple car and they have risen back to the top. Leclerc holds on to 3rd. The 2 Mercedes, who spent the first 3 rounds of this season as the dominant force behind the McLarens, behind a Ferrari. Antonelli 4th, Russell is 5th, with Max Verstappen only 6/10 away from Russell at the flag. 6th, Hamilton down in 7th. Pierre Gasly holds the final point on offer for 8th. Hadjar 9th and Colapinto the top 10, but there are still battles to be settled. Bortoleto should come home for 11th, and Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman fighting all the way to the flag, and it's going to be Esteban Ocon who comes out on top. The British driver Behrman finishes in 13th, Sainz 14th, Liam Lawson in 15th, and right at the end, did Fernando Alonso get Sergio Perez for 16th?
Good effort, mate. Well done.
Yeah, well done. Nice win. Great job. Let's do it all over again.
Cool, calm and collected, Damon Hill.
Yeah. I mean, I think they know that this is just part 1 of the race weekend, isn't it? Great start. We're watching Zach Brown now. I was fully expecting him to come on the radio, and he's being his full-blown, effusive self. He'll be delighted with that result. And
that's the checkered flag. Nice job, Oscar. It's a strong P2, and McLaren won 2 as well. We're really happy with that. Good job.
Yeah, well done everybody. Good job. Nice to see the pace was pretty good. Obviously, sure there's a couple of things to work on, but nice to be able to hold off everybody else. So thank you. Let's go again this afternoon.
A McLaren 1-2 to kickstart racing proceedings in Miami, and that will give him a huge amount of momentum going into qualifying later on today. But is this a shift in the pecking order now, Damon? Is this McLaren announcing themselves as championship contenders? What do Mercedes do now?
yeah, it's about when you play your cards, isn't it, now in Formula One? Because developments, they can only do so many and so much during a season, and if you choose to do it now, then there may be teams that will be bringing forward their developments a bit later on, and McLaren have to be careful they don't use up all their development options too early in the season. But it's obviously played out brilliantly right now. If they've got a car they can win with like this, and they get those points in the bag. So they'll cross that bridge when they get to it, I suppose. Well, let's head down to the Parc Fermé area as Lando Norris climbs out of his victorious McLaren car. Jenny Gow's got eyes on him.
Yeah, so Pyrotechnics are off. The DJ is above Lando Norris, spinning some tunes, as they only do in Miami. But he's just stood on the top of his car, as you say. He goes and gets weighed, and then he comes over and celebrates with his team. It's not an exactly pumping celebration. I think the events of today and the death of Alex Zanardi and the announcement have led to it to be slightly subdued, and you can't blame them. The drivers are affected by when things happen, and he was such an icon of racing, that an icon in general, that I think it's a slightly subdued podium and pen here at Parc Fermé. But the drivers are coming towards me now. Kimi Antonelli looking very hot and sweaty. It's immensely hot down here today, And I'm just waiting with all of the mechanics from McLaren who run to Parc Fermé for the podium celebrations, and they're waiting to see their driver coming out as Lewis Hamilton, dressed in that Ferrari kit with that bright yellow helmet with the 7 stars on it marking 7 World Championships, walks past me. That was a grueling race, even though it was only 19 laps. The weather is so hot down here. And now Lando Norris, he's taken off his helmet, just pops it on top of the number 1 box stand. Charles Leclerc to his left just hugs Zak Brown, who is the CEO of McLaren. He's down here as well, so just wanting to congratulate Lando Norris. And I'm waiting for the moment that Lando and Zak just shake hands and they celebrate this win.
Indeed, just 19 laps of racing, but intense action all the way. Bodes well for the Grand Prix, hopefully on Sunday. And it is hot. Air temperature 32.4 degrees, track temperature 51 degrees. Actually a little less than yesterday. Of course, we're expecting conditions to drastically change for Sunday with huge thunderstorms planned, lightning, rain. How will that affect things for tomorrow? But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Qualifying will be next up here on 5 Sports Extra, and that will get going at 9 o'clock. But news just in, Kimi Antonelli has received a 5-second time penalty, and that drops him down to 6th place. We'll have more on that, but first let's head to David Coulthard speaking with Charles Leclerc.
Welcome to the interviews. We've just heard from Brian Tyler, the composer of the F1 theme tune. He's just on a world debut of the remix, We Are Dreaming. So let's ask Charles Leclerc whether you dreamed you could finish 3rd here in this sprint race. It's been I'd say a challenging start to the season, but the upgrades have really worked well, and we saw you pushing hard against Oscar right towards the end of the race there.
Yeah, no, the upgrades worked well. I mean, it's thanks to the team that has done a massive work over these 5 weeks of break, but I'm satisfied with that. Unfortunately, I'm not satisfied with P3 though. Obviously, we wish we were a little bit higher, but McLaren brought significant upgrades as well and did a big step forward. So, but we are not too far. So I think for tomorrow, if we put everything together, maybe we can start a bit higher up, and that will make our life a little bit easy.
It's the nature of a racing driver, never to be happy, but you got some good points there, and it's my pleasure to give you your award for finishing 3rd in the sprint.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Enjoy that. If you can just stay with us just over there, and I'm going to bring in Oscar. So Oscar, we had the opportunity to speak just ahead of the race, and you were pretty positive with the way qualifying had went. These upgrades have been working, and you had your eye very much on moving forward. So satisfied with the 7 points for 2nd?
Yes, I think mostly it was, obviously a little bit to find to try and stay with Lando, but no, overall it was a good day, or good morning, obviously. So, we'll try and see what we can do for qualifying. I think everyone else will learn a lot, but so will we. So hopefully we can maintain that through the rest of the weekend.
Okay, well, here is your award for 2nd in the sprint. Congratulations. If you also would wait with Charles. And ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the sprint, on a track that's been very kind to you in the past, Lando Norris. Congratulations. Put us in the cockpit. 19 hot laps, but you had it under control right from the very start.
Yes. No, it was a good race. Good race. Nice to be back on the top step, even if it's a sprint. But a good day for us. You know, a massive job to the team in bringing the upgrades. I know it feels like everyone's saying the same thing, but ours have really helped this weekend. So happy to get it done for the team. But it's hot. It was hot out there. It was sweaty. I was still pushing. I was trying to find that balance of pushing, but also being quite relaxed and not making mistakes. So good start to the weekend, but now we have to do it all over again.
Well, you do indeed. You've got to qualify this evening. How much of what you've just learnt there, good 8 points on the board with the sprint win, where is your mind? You're always moving forward. So are you looking at making many adjustments for the car going into main qualifying later?
Probably not too many. If it works, if it's not broken, I don't know what it is. But anyway, it's worked so far, so we'll probably change a couple of things. There's a couple of things I wanted different from yesterday that will adjust. So hopefully we have a little bit more to come, but I'm sure the others will too. So we'll just keep our head down and keep pushing.
Okay, well, congratulations. Please stay there because we have a special award that's going to be presented by Reed Wiseman, who was the commander on the recent Artemis II mission to the moon and back. So there you have that award. And if we can bring our 2nd and 3rd place finishers in this sprint. Reed, if you stay there for the picture, please. Ladies and gentlemen, as we stand here after the sprint in memory of Alex Zanardi, who sadly passed in the last 24 hours, we celebrate racing as a community.
David Coulthard there with the top three from our second sprint of the year, and the spoils go to McLaren. Lando Norris winning and Oscar Piastri in second. We'll go qualifying for the Grand Prix later on today. You can hear that on 5 Sports Extra on air from 8:55 ahead of the green lights coming on at the end of the pit lane from 9 o'clock this evening. Do join us. Kimi Antonelli at the end there, given a 5-second time penalty, drops him to 6th place. That was for exceeding track limits too many times. A blow for the Italian, who still leads the Drivers' Championship. Right, from Miami to some European Rugby Challenge Cup action now, already underway with Ulster against Exeter in one of the semi-finals. So let's join it with our colleagues at Radio Ulster.